is rated GE. It is suitable for general family viewing.
Hello everyone and welcome. This is a Realtor. I'm Robert Dongo. And you know what? This is an advancement. We have to further what we started last week. And this is all about the obligations of you as a tenant. You there, perhaps you have rented somewhere to live or even do your business. What are the rights? What is expected of you as a tenant? And you know what? You have rights as a tenant. This is what some people have been using in your advantage or at your advantage, just to make sure that they get the best out of you. That is extortion, if not exploitation. We are here just to make sure that you understand all this. And we touched on basis who is a tenant. You need to understand what's the definition as a tenant, as an occupant of that premises. Who are you as far as the law is concerned? And at the same time, we discussed matters concerning what is expected of you to the agent responsible for that premises, and also what is expected you as far as the law is concerned. And I had no objection, or I had no otherwise but to bring you back the guests I have today. One an advocate and the other one a property consultant who is also an agent. And thank you so much, gentlemen. This could not be enough for one episode that we did last week. I'm introducing you here, and I would love you, for the sake of someone who didn't see you, hear you talk, introduce yourself, just to do the same. Kindly introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you very much for having us in the show.
Right.
My name is Daniel Nyoro Nyambura. I'm the founder and group CEO of Quantum Property Realtors.
Right.
We are dealers in real estate, all matters real estate.
Right.
Consultancy, property management, buying and selling, and majorly consultancy there.
Right.
Yes.
Wow. Thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you very much for having me today also.
Right.
Joseph Mugweru is my name, advocate of the High Court from the firm of Mugweru Ndege, currently the managing partner and the head of conveyancing and commercial law.
Wow. Commercial law, based in Nairobi.
Yeah, based in Nairobi.
Right, based in Nairobi.
Nairobi, but also even the outskirts of Kiambu and the others.
Of course, we talk about metropolitan. It has expounded our territories legally, of course. And thank you so much. Maybe because of someone who was not here, I would request Wakili just to remind us who is a tenant.
A tenant, as per the law, is anyone who occupies a property, be it land, a building,
right,
that person does not own the said building or land, but only has what we call in law possession, and that is after an agreement with the landlord or an agent for that matter.
All right.
Yes.
And now, in this case, we have a consultant who happens to be a property agent. I choose to forget about everything else you do and focus on property agency. Who is a property agent?
A property agent is a professional, seasoned consultant,
right,
who has been given the mandate by the landlord to manage the property or the premise in question. In this particular instance,
right,
we consider these premises as something which has been built on land. So actually, even in the lease agreements, we don't actually list the name of the building.
Right.
We actually list the ALER number. Because it's managing the land itself.
Right.
So anything that is occupied or attached, according to law they say attached to the land, is I've been given the mandate, I've been given the full powers, or what you call the power of attorney.
Okay.
If it's correct, the power of attorney by the landlord.
We're going to learn these terminologies.
Exactly. To manage that premise.
Right. So when you talk about property management, you're not talking about the apartment itself, including the land.
Yes.
So that gives you the full right of managing even the green areas and anything, the parking areas, anything that is on that LR number.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. Last time we talked about a time when now you have to bring, an auctioneer to my premise when I've defaulted or I've not met my obligation.
Yes.
And you explained so well what the law dictates and how I can find myself there.
Yes.
Today I want us to pick it from a place where now we understand the full rights of a tenant. Yes. We mentioned briefly, or rather partially, but I would love us to take it deeper. Because Wakili, you have it from what the law stipulates.
Yes.
I would love to start with Mr. Daniel and tell us what rights have you given? Even if you mentioned that last time, what privileges or rights have you given to tenants?
The privileges that you've given to tenants are, of course, enjoyment of the premise. That means, in enjoyment, it's a very big word.
Right.
That means you're supposed to have the amenity, the utilities, what you signed up for, or example, what utilities you've been given for the building. Because a building, I can say I'm renting out the property without water.
Right.
You take it as it is. So whatever you signed up for in the lease agreement that I'm supposed to pay, to give you, for in return for you to pay rent, you're supposed to enjoy.
Now, up to there, Wakili, help us understand who witnesses, because I believe there are loopholes. And as we mentioned last time, devil is said to be in details.
Yes.
Who witnesses or executes that agreement?
It's obvious, or it's common among people to carry a witness to the agreement.
Right.
That is not bad in law. But I always advise my clients, it's good for an advocate to witness.
Right.
And before a proper advocate witnesses your agreement, he or she, I know, goes through it bit by bit, understanding whatever is in the details. So that is why it is always good to hire the services of an advocate of the High Court.
Right.
I know people say it's a bit expensive,
Right.
but it will not be expensive until there is a breach of the said contract. Either party takes the other to court, and costs that come with litigation accrue. Something that would have been prevented if these parties just looked for an advocate and talked to him.
Do the laws stipulate or dictate the span at which a tenancy should take?
Not really. At the end of the day, you have to remember that it's for the parties to agree.
Right.
Yeah, it's for the parties to agree.
Right.
But depending on maybe commercial buildings and dwelling houses,
right.
For a dwelling house, it may be monthly, quarterly, or maybe someplace yearly. For again buildings, commercial buildings, it fully depends on what parties agree to. But now when you come to commercial buildings, landlords have to be very careful,
right,
because of the duration. There is what we call controlled tenancy in law and an uncontrolled tenancy. An uncontrolled tenancy gives what now we call the BBRT, that is the business tribunal, to handle any matter that arises from that tenancies. And any action that the landlord takes, he must first make a reference to the BBRT and get orders to the effect that I must evict you, I must distress maybe on rent. But at the end of the day, I always advise my clients, or we always advise our clients, do a 5-year, 3 months contract. It is not that we just copy paste things. It's just to protect you when it comes to the issue.
We extensively talked about matters auctioneering and evicting, or rather eviction. But in this case, him being an agent forgot about one right I believe thousands would love to hear about, right? And I'm not hard pressing you. I'm already representing thousands who are watching this in the interest of their tenancy and their rights. Anytime we set, we are signing an agreement, a tenancy agreement, you'll find a clause that dictates that I should pay some money called the deposit, the rent deposit. And it is said that if I meet full obligations, it is refundable at the time of termination. Before we come to termination, this banning than the termination itself, at what time, let me start with you, Daniel, at what time do you return this deposit?
I'll be very honest with you. It is obligated of us to refund your deposit. House security. It's ladies and gentlemen, it's not house deposit, it's house security deposit. Please take note of security.
All right.
As a loan that is secured, the same is the premise that is secured. So house security deposit has some obligations that each party must meet. And the tenant must meet some obligations for the lease. And the obligations must give in the notice that has been put in place. For example, in our quantum, the page itself that is talking of deposit, house security deposit refund is one page. And it stipulates the terms. And these terms are, 1, write a notice on time. A 30 days notice. It can be another building. For commercials, you give even to, if it's commercial but controlled, 2 months notice. And of course with reasons. If there's also the clause of how do you qualify for that deposit? What is the security deposit used for? How will I use your security deposit? And at what time will I refund yourself the security, house security deposit? We're usually taken as harassing when you take our time with the security deposit. But remember, you sign to a term that was so saying, I'll give you the deposit, or we qualify for a deposit. After you have done this and this and that. Yes.
And maybe in a nutshell, you can mention what is this and that.
This and that includes giving 30 days. I'll give an example of generally.
General one.
30 days security deposit, 30 days notice period.
Right.
And I mean 30 days calendar notice. A calendar notice of 30 days. This means don't give a notice from 15th to 15th of the next month. No, it's from 1st of the month to 30th of the month.
Okay.
Don't crisscross to the next month. So first of all, meet that part. 2, give a reason. 3, do a notice in writing.
Right.
Don't just give a verbal notice and moving out. No. Secondly, what are the obligations you are supposed to meet before you leave?
Right.
These are these. Pay your rent.
Right.
You have make sure you have no
arrears at all.
Yes.
Someone here, note this and note better. I have no arrears.
Yes.
I'm working with this person. I have no arrears, number 2.
Yes.
From you, number 2.
Number 2, give me my notice period.
Notice, 30 calendar days.
Yes, 30 calendar days in writing.
Right.
That is mostly, and of course, meet your obligations as a tenant when you're moving out.
What are these obligations? You're paying rent and writing the notice?
Yes. Clearing your arrears.
Right.
Ensuring the premise is under habitable conditions when you're living it.
Okay.
So this means ensure the premise the way you are given. If the agreement was, please fix the premise before you leave, you fix it. Of course, no more wear and tear is expected.
Right.
But fix the premise. So don't leave things hanging around.
In most cases, because there's the elephant in surrounding the whole security deposit issue, it's all about how you utilize the security deposit, or rather how I have to give back the premises as I found it. Now, Wakili, I'm coming to you because I believe in a way you must have handled this. Tell us, under what circumstances should my deposit be utilized, and what parameters are used to, to dictate how you're going to utilize? I have no arrears, and at the same time, I've written the notice. How do you utilize? My apartment or my space is habitable. So how do you go on and, utilize the same?
Yes.
Under
Now,
what circumstances?
again, under the circumstances that have been put in place in the lease agreement, if the landlord decides or the property manager, it was decided in the lease agreement that I will not utilize your deposit, I will not utilize your deposit.
Right.
If you meet the other conditions, I refund you. But in the cases of where I'm utilizing your deposit, in regards to the premise, renovating back the premise to the way it was, the state of the premise.
Yes.
You came in this place having grass here. Where is the grass now?
Right.
Yes, I need the grass back. You came this place, you found trees, now you've cut them all.
You said well, because I'll transfer this, and of course, by the time you're back from the break, we are picking it from here. But I would want someone to ask themselves, I found grass, yes, it is here, but I don't control sun. There is nowhere stipulated in my agreement that I should water the grass.
Yes.
It is actually a pay service charge for some of these things. But I know what you're getting. And mind you there, and you're wondering what is all this about. We are talking about your rights and also what is expected of you. So that means also the landlord or the property owner has got his or her own rights as well, and this must meet at a certain place for you to call yourself a good tenant, and also the other side a good landlord. Don't go away, because this we're going to discuss after this short break.
Did you know you can live in your home in Juja Farm and work in Nairobi CBD? Or are you in the diaspora and looking for a suitable place to build your home? Leeds Property Solutions is making this a reality. With a cash prize of 580,000, own a plot at Leeds Gardens or pay a deposit of 200,000 Kenyan shillings and the balance in 4 months. These plots have ready individual title deeds and only 15 minutes from Thika Superhighway along the newly tarmacked Juja Farm Road. For site visit our office in Ruiru Town or call us on 0792 161 099 or visit our website www.leedsproperty.co.ke. Leeds Property Solutions, your investment pointer. You are watching TV 46. Disability is not only limited to physical disorder, but also mental issue. From depression,
I was under depression for like 2 years.
bipolar,
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder.
and even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit to find answers so as to help everyone go through life with ease. Join Mudhoni Maina every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Starting this September at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, The Realtor brings it all to perspective. We identify a property, discuss and demonstrate the journey towards ownership.
Professionals who have integrity, and from their catalog you can easily read that these are professionals who are able to deliver.
Everywhere you go, you have to up your games. You have to go with the trends.
Not forgetting the margin.
More about what concerns you. And thank you so much, Bwana Daniel, Quantum. Now, we talked about refunding the the security deposit. When it comes to your maybe I can start this. Allow me. I can start with Wakili. Why should I've given you business. There's stay and wear aspect. Why should I be subjected to painting a house that I've lived for 3 years without any damage?
You would have asked him at what point don't they return the deposit?
Because chances are
that I will not get my deposit back.
Right.
They will have issues to do that. They need to paint the house. There is something they need to fix. And when I propose to have my person do the same work, they start giving me other conditions that use this kind of paint. Maybe our paint is imported and a lot of stories.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, a landlord and the agent should know that under the law, you should return the deposit for the tenant. And in case you don't do that, the tenant can actually take you to court and sue you for breach of.
Should we point at ignorance as one of the things that victimizes the tenants?
Yes, very much, because at the end of the day, if I don't know my deposit should be given back, what else should happen? Should I just say I don't have control over the landlord, or I will say I will sit on the deposit, as we Kenyans are fondly of saying? And at the end of the day, if you don't know your rights then, and your ignorance of the same, you will notice that most of the time these people will, but it should not be that way.
Mr. Daniel of Quantum,
Yes.
Do you find yourself in such tussles between you? And also you can tell us, at the very point of my entrance to your space, who keeps this deposit?
Yes, first of all, house security deposit is kept by the landlord or the stakeholders of the property.
Okay.
In fact, law mandates they store it in a separate account because this is security deposit.
Right.
You're only supposed to get this at the end of your tenancy. After your termination, when you're terminating. Now, there's nothing that has been cast on stone on whether you're not going to get your deposit back.
Right.
Actually, if you are told this month, if you do this, you're not going to get your deposit, just wait for the next month.
Right.
Because this or quarter, because one of the main term is notice period.
Sure.
Have you met the conditions? Because remember, as a property manager or an agent, as you per se say, and those are by the way very funny agent because imported paints. Or who gives you that? I'm supposed to tell you the standards and why we actually prefer to do those paints and those jobs or use our people, certified people and technicians, is to ensure standards. Because remember, I need to give that premise to the next person, and they need to find it in a.
But you see, Daniel, I've given you business for 3 years. And there's nothing that hinders you from painting the house and passing it over. What do you call after sales service? What after sales do I get after buying your space for 3 years?
No, that you can put on email and you forward it to the stakeholders. If they perceive to give you the deposit without you taking up the cost, which again I'll take again to the agreement. What did you agree with from the trial? For you to bear the cost or not? But let me say something. Dear tenants out there, first of all, no, there are 3 sides of the coin. There are 2 sides of the coin here.
Sure.
One, you have to meet your conditions. 2, before I request, we property manager request for your deposit from the stakeholder, we must meet all conditions.
Sure.
So all conditions must align, you must align for you to get your deposit. So if you as a tenant have not met the conditions, don't expect we as agents to go here and request for your deposit. You will not qualify. So what we advise people, like in our quantum property directors, we usually say, you remember when you say write a notice? So writing a notice and emailing it to us, we mark the date. The date is captured. You're not going to change that. Take us to court, you say, no, he gave a notice on 10th. Of course, we are fair and also firm because these are business at the end of the day.
I'm persuaded to ask Wakili this question, not you. When it comes to termination of tenancy, because we've talked about when I've defaulted, and all the law falls on me. But now here comes a scenario where him as an agent, all the property owner feels that I should leave the house.
Okay.
I've not defaulted, I've kept up to standards, but they feel for one reason, their own reasons. How do you go about this? Because as I've told you, my research shows that there are instances where a tenant is evicted, or rather I would say chased, because it's not out of their free will, that they should get out of the premises. How do you go about termination from the landlord?
At the end of the day, you have to remember that the tenant has what we call quiet enjoyment of the property.
Right.
And at the end of the day, if the landlord decides to go the gangster way, if I may call it that, and evicts me immediately from the property without following due procedure, then I have remedies in law that will work on that.
Right.
I can move to court and claim breach of contract and ask the court then to quantify the damage I will go through for me to get the compensation. At the end of the day, when it comes to eviction, you have to go to court.
Sure.
If you think you are going to use the property for something else, kindly give the tenant a reasonable notice. At the end of the day, it's reasonable notice.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I need to be told you are getting out of the house. Please have this 1 month or this 2 months to go get another house.
And that's what I wanted us to capture. Is there no stipulated time? Because I've not violated the agreement and I've kept all the obligations. Does the law not dictate or stipulate that I should have 3 or 4 months?
Basically, what the law dictates is for a reasonable notice.
Right.
A reasonable notice may run from 1 month to...
So reasonable is relative.
Yes, but it should at least not be less than 30 days.
Right.
Because at least, again, I have to look for a house that is of my liking. So at the end of the day, 30 days is seen as sufficient notice. But of course, this again will be left to the mercy
and
of
of course,
courts.
on behalf of these people, I'm calling for you, Akili, and all the policy makers, because assuming where I live and I've been evicted, or rather I've been served with a notice to leave, and taking 30 days to plan all my, all my package to shift. I feel, if gentlemen you agree with me, that's a loophole.
Yes.
If the law could favor myself among as many tenants, they could find that we should stipulate the
Let me interject a little bit. There's nowhere the law favors the landlord at all, or the agents. The law is only for the tenant. Yes. Nowhere, there's no...
But you maximize on the loopholes. You maximize on the loopholes.
They maximize on the loophole.
Right.
And that is why I am again of the opinion that why there is a need for the law to favor the client or the tenant is because these landlords and agents are at a higher ground.
Right.
It's a person who has the power to come and lock your house, though that is illegal.
Sure.
It's a person who can...
Note that. It's illegal to have your house locked. Yes, okay.
It's a person who can come and issue you with an eviction notice. So at the end of the day, the law has to strike a balance between the rights of the landlord and the rights of the tenant. But at the end of the day, also tenants have to remember this is a business. The landlord must get his cut. The agent must get his cut, and let everyone do their bit.
Now, gentlemen, let's talk about, we're talking about leasing property, and we have dealt so much into the houses, the premises. Does the same policies and approach apply when it comes to leasing of land? Wakili.
So when it comes to lands, it's a bit different.
Right.
And now that is when we come into registration of a lease. That is with the Ministry of Lands, and not registering. Any lease that is above 2 years should be registered at the Ministry of Land. And the rules and regulations that cover that are quite different, because when a lease happens, mostly you just lease an open land.
Right.
I will do some improvements. That is, maybe I might put up structures that are not permanent. I will be getting rent from there. There are other parties that will be involved. So when it comes to this, maybe the rules are very different when compared to houses.
Okay.
Yes.
And Daniel, do you do the same? Do you lease land?
Yes,
particularly.
We lease land, and land, when you say leasing of land, it can be for quarry, for extraction of minerals. Of course, you need to get a license, ensure you're on your side whoever is getting all those. I like what Wakili did it.
Right.
It's quite a bit different, but in the same thing, there are certain loopholes that need to be tightened up whenever you are leasing land, because you also lease and you're not supposed to let to sell out or give ownership to. There are a lot of things, improvement on land. For example, yes, or sublease. For example, while you are letting in a house, you are allowed to improve on the house. But when you're living, there are certain conditions that you have to, like you leave whatever you have improved on the trust.
Sure.
But on the side of the land, it's also different as well. You may be told leave as it was, or flatten the ground, leave them the way they were, or leave the improvements like those permanent structures you're mentioning above. Yes.
But it's very hard for you to put up a permanent structure on a leased property. At the end of the day, I always advise clients, don't do permanent structures, because at the end of the day, the law will allow you under the Movable Securities Act to move with your impermanent structures to another place. Yes.
All right. And now when it comes to moving and all that, again, I want us to understand, as we wind up, what does it mean to have a tenancy on land? What guides what I'm going to do with the land?
At the end of the day, again, parties are bound by the terms of the contract.
All right.
It's all what parties agree.
Okay.
If let's say I lease a land that is in a residential area, and then I start purporting that I will do a business, let's say a hospital there, I think I will need to do what we call change of users. That means I will have to go to the local government that is involved, where we will change user. So at the end of the day, it's what parties agree, and it's what party consents to. At the end of the day, agreement by parties. And of course, the rules governing the area. Again, you cannot lease an agricultural land and you want to put up residential houses without following, let's say, the change of user process under the county governments. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much. Mr. Daniel, give us your parting shot.
Yes, my parting shot is, dear tenants, or whatever you do with your interaction with tenants, landlords out there and property managers, please don't fight them.
Okay.
Look, and even